Hello everybody, today's the first Sunday of the month again, and I'm headed to Southeastern Poland to visit the antique show. And the sun is out and it's a great day, and I decided to pull over to make this little intro video because safety second, and because that's how I roll sometimes. And yeah, really excited. I do have some news for about the channel. I decided to go with a 20-foot container instead of a 40-foot container this time because, well, actually for a couple reasons. One is I can make the whole process faster and move into that second phase, get past the learning curve. It's much cheaper to fill a 20-foot container as compared to a 40-foot container. I don't know if you've ever been inside one of those things, but they're gigantic. And when you want to fill that container with stuff, especially small to medium-sized stuff, it takes a long time and a lot of money. So a video about that pretty soon. But if I can get this stuff there quicker and sell some of the stuff, I'll have maybe a little bit of income from this, and money is always a great lubricant for keeping things moving forward. So yeah, looking forward to kind of going there today with an eye for filling out the rest of the container. I'll be using the spy cam today on the cameras because it's a little awkward to stick a camera in people's stuff here. So I'll be doing that, and I've heard that the footage can be a little bit shaky. So if you're averse to shaky footage, I'm going to try to do my best to kind of, number one, be stable with the footage, and number two, to edit out the really shaky stuff. But if you're averse to that kind of thing, go ahead and skip ahead to the second part of the video where we go visit that guy. So thanks for coming back, and let's go find some really cool stuff. So one of the nice things about traveling around and getting antiques over here is that you get to see all these really cool and interesting places. This is a little town called Sokolovsko, and it has a long history, and this was a kind of a town that was dedicated to like a health spa type area, to helping people get well. So the buildings here, I think, were built in the early to mid 1800s, and yeah, it was really cool. So today we're just going to do a quick walkthrough and check out what's at the market in Świdnica, Poland. It's on the first Sunday of every month. I actually used the spy glasses to film this, and I don't think I'm going to do that anymore because the footage is just too shaky, and it's not really great for getting quality video footage for you guys to check out what's over here. So but for the sake of just taking a nice walk and checking out what's at the market, you might be interested in this. So let's go ahead and do that, and I'll do a little bit of a kind of a background commentary. If you are not interested in seeing what's at the market, you can fast forward because there's a large section at the end of the video dedicated to checking out the things that I actually picked up. So I'm going to show those to you and tell you all about those. And so stick around to the end or fast forward, whatever floats your boat. So the Świdnica antique market is kind of hit and miss. The weather has a big impact on whether there's a lot of dealers, and from month to month it really seems like there's a big turnover in the actual dealers who turn up. The first time that I ever came to this market, I didn't bring any money. I was just going there to check it out, and I saw amazing things from a couple dealers, and if I'd had money there on that day, I would have bought everything. And I thought, well, okay, they're going to be back next month, and I'll just visit them, no problem. The next 3 or 4 times that I've been there, they haven't been back. So if you see something that you want, be prepared, get it while you can, because it may not be there later. So In the U.S., when you go to these flea markets, it's kind of a different vibe because you have to get there like at the crack of dawn, basically in the dark, and go around in order to get the best stuff because everybody's hunting for it. Here, I tried to do that, and I showed up at like 7, which isn't super early, and all the dealers were just starting to pull the stuff out and put their stuff out, and they continue to do that over the next 2 hours. So it's not quite as important to be at the very beginning of the market. As a matter of fact, it might even pay to come a little bit later because they don't put everything out right at the beginning. So which is kind of cool. It means like you can spend more time there and still find the cool stuff. So when you're trying to fill a container with antiques, it is very tempting to just focus on the big stuff, and that's for a couple reasons. It will help you fill your container, and you'll feel like you're actually doing something. And while that's great on one hand, you can't just have all big ticket items, super expensive, gigantic things. You really need to have a high quantity of really cool, interesting things that are kind of priced at a point where people can make an impulse buy and not feel too bad about it. So the problem with that is that containers are super huge, and if you, let's say you spend $50 on a lamp that you want to sell for $200, and you spent $50, you put that in the bottom corner all the way at the back at your container, and there's still a gigantic container to fill, and you could put about 3,000 of those $50 lamps in that container. So you have to kind of get a feel for, in my opinion, if you do a healthy mix of larger stuff and those smaller, more available, more purchasable items, it seems to me, just from what I've learned so far, that in order to do a 20-foot container, you probably need about $15,000 to $20,000 if you're just kind of going around to the markets and buying stuff. $15,000 to $20,000 to fill it. And then obviously you'd want to double that if you're going to do a full 40-foot shipping container. And I hesitate to even say that because it just varies wildly. If you just buy a bunch of big pieces, you could fill that container for as little as like $3,000 or $4,000, and it's full and ready to go. If you have the strategy where you want to have lots of cool little interesting items, you could easily spend $80,000 or $100,000 to fill a container. So for me personally, I'm kind of learning that it's real. You have to completely forget about the impulse to consider how this item impacts filling the container. It's more important just to stay focused on getting quality items and kind of gauge your progress over time. And that's not always so easy to do if you're from the US and you're just here for a couple weeks. I have to say that I would be amazed at, to see how that's done for somebody who comes from the US for like a month and is able to buy all of the stuff that they need in order to fill a container. For me, I do a lot of online research. I'm looking for cool stuff that kind of fits what I'm trying to do, kind of the vibe I'm trying to set. And I'm doing it over, 3-4 months. And, on the weekends, I'll go pick up 3-4 pieces. To do that, do all that buying, all that traveling, all of the logistics involved in it, and to get the container on a 30-day trip here to Europe is pretty amazing feat. So not sure exactly how they do that, and I don't think I'd be able to do it for sure. I mean, I guess if you had unlimited funds and you could just pull the trigger on every single cool item that you see, then you could do that in 30 days. But if you're trying to maintain margins and make sure that this is a profitable venture, and you're kind of picky about setting a tone and a style for yourself, it does take a little bit more time. So I know that back in the States, it's kind of common practice. It's kind of typical that people who are doing flipping and hustling out there are looking for items that they can sell for 3 times their purchase price. For me personally, I have to seek out items that I can sell for 4 times because I have all of that transport and logistics involved. Because, you know, if I buy it online, it has to be shipped to me where I live, or I have to go get it. And then it has to go in a container, it has to go to the States, has to be transported from the port there to my home in the States, and then it has to be transported once again to the actual antique show. And that's not even mentioning all the work that goes into kind of freshening it up and getting it ready for actual resale. So I look for things that I can sell for at least 4 times because although it is very expensive to send a container, if you've got lots and lots of items in there, you can divide that across the number of individual items that you have, and then it's not quite as bad. It's actually much less than if you tried to send a single item to the States through regular mail or through a courier company. So I look for 4 times, and the way I kind of figure that is one of those 4 is purchasing it. One of those 4 is transporting it. One of those 4 is taking into account that people want to negotiate on the price. And then that 4th is profit. So it's kind of like doubling your money. So if I don't think that I can sell it for 4 times, then I can't really purchase it. So yeah. On a side note here, because this footage is a little bit shaky and the frame rate's kind of weird and it's hard to actually get a good look at some of this stuff. If you hit the pause button, it will give you a really high quality, high resolution image. You can take your time and check out something if you see that you're interested in. So. This is a really amazing little stool there. I don't know if that's a stool or a table. If anybody can identify that, I'd be really interested in knowing about it. What era it came from, and if it's 20th century. So I came across these lamps, and I really like these because they look kind of engineered. I'll go back here in a second here and take another look at them. I noticed kind of as I was walking by, I'm like, hey, I better go back and check those. They look kind of engineered. They don't look overly decorative. They look like something you'd see maybe in an office of an architect or something. And I thought they were really cool. These people said no, that they were just basically hanging in one of the apartments that they purchased. And they wanted 600 Polish zloty for each one, which is about $150. And I just don't know about lamps enough to know if that would have been a good buy or not. So if you are into lamps and you know about them, $300 for these 2 chandeliers. Is there any room there? I just was kind of feeling like 4-to-1 rule. I I wasn't sure that I could sell them for $1,200. Yeah, so I had to pass on those guys. Here's a brass coat rack. Notice it goes in the hallway, and these are kind of, they were common in the Soviet era, but this one is actually pre-war, so. This particular month there seemed to be a lot more rusty gold type stuff, which I usually gravitate toward, except that I have a, worried about making videos, so didn't do too much digging. Just enjoying the day and having a walk. Now, if you're the type of person who, like me, is a little bit averse to crowds, it just gives me the heebie-jeebies when people don't look where they're going and aren't kind of spatially aware or don't have any situational awareness. This is not the place for you if that's the kind of person that you are. You just, you kind of just have to go with the flow. There's a Standard Oil sign there, but it's a little bit different than the ones from the States, so I don't know if that's the same company or not. One thing that Poland has a lot of is ceramic statues and glassware, so if you're into that, this is a place to come to. I don't know anything about paintings. Probably I should learn a little bit because they're everywhere here. I find myself enjoying it more when I'm buying stuff that I really like, so I think I prefer to purchase something that maybe isn't a home run or a clear moneymaker, but something I like that would go with my own booth and fit into my personal style. So it's always good to buy things that if you can't sell them, you can live with them and still be happy. So now this area is kind of my more favorite area of the antique show because it's a good mix of rusty gold and refined kind of cool antiques. So this pocket's kind of developed, and these particular vendors, they've gravitated toward each other, and it has a distinctly different feel from the other side of the antique show. One thing that's kind of a bummer is it's not a habit of vendors here to put price tags on things, and which I don't understand, because I have this impulse that if I don't know what it costs, it's probably too much. And I've walked by lots of things and probably missed a lot of opportunities because I didn't just ask what the price was. So I think there's a big debate in the industry whether you should price or not at shows. I think you should definitely price, because I'm sure there are more people out there like me who, they don't want to be bothersome, and they don't, you know, they just make the assumption that it's too expensive when it could be very affordable for them. So for dealers out there, price your stuff. Okay, don't forget, at the end of the video here, we're going to show you some of the things that I actually picked up. Before we do that, there's just a little bit more to check out here. If you're a rummager and a digger, this is the side of the show you want to be on. Somebody married that vise to that, I don't know if that's ceramic or porcelain base there. Very decorative base for probably the most decorative, the most decorative base for a vise that I've ever seen. Heavy duty door knocker. I never know about these because they're basically cast, and I think it's pretty hard to tell the difference between something that's been made recently and some of the old stuff. So I kind of stay away from those types of things. I know if you can authenticate them that they're super desirable. So I'll leave that up to somebody who's more experienced than I am. Lots and lots of porcelain statues. There's an altar there. Check that out. Look at all that porcelain. I'm just not interested in any of that. Nothing against it, it's just not my thing. Seems like every third or fourth vendor has a bunch of swords, so Okay. I said we go check out what I picked up. I'm excited to show it to you guys. Okay, so I'm back. It's actually the next day, and I went to see the gentleman that I discussed earlier, and he was a really nice guy. But he was a little bit shy about being filmed and filming there, so we didn't film, but that's okay because I do have some things to show you that I picked up. So let's take a second and check them out. Okay, let me see if I can just stop my shadow being in the picture. So this is a really cool old cobbler's stand, and it's ultra heavy. I bought it and I had to walk to the other side of the market with it, and I almost was not able to do it because it's solid iron. As you can see, that is solid iron, and it has 3 parts. And yeah, you know, you see these cobbler shoe things everywhere you go, but this one just had something extra about it. I mean, it was complete, and it has a beautiful patina on it. It's very industrial. It has the maker's mark there, and the color is awesome on it. So yeah, just for design purposes, I thought it would be a great item to have. Okay, now I know this channel's focused on European antiques, but this is really cool. It came from Michigan, and I know that this company is still in business because I looked them up. But it is a cast iron sign that's been machined to make this nameplate. So I think this went on a heavy piece of machinery or something, because it's got a serial number here, and it's got some scarring to the paint, which is actually pretty cool, just enough to make it look old. And the reason I actually bought it, because it's going back to the States, is that it's a machinist company, and machinist stuff is pretty collectible, so there's going to be somebody that really wants this. So I gave, what did I give, about $50 for that, and I paid about $20 for this shoe thing. So I'll be able to sell them for a lot more than that, at least I think so. So let me know if you disagree, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. Wasn't sure what this is actually. It's on a little tripod stand. It's definitely old. It has that really cool rubbed, worn look to it, and it's just a sign. The guy said he thought it was used for automotive industry, for calibrating something. So there, as you can see, there are measurements here, and then if you flip it around, it's double-sided, and then it has a little, I think it's a pen holder or something. But yeah, and then I looked to see if there was a production year on there, but there isn't. There's just a factory number and then a product number. So but I thought it was pretty cool. It wasn't very expensive, and it would look really neat on somebody's dresser. So okay, so the next thing is a clothing rack that would go in your hallway, or a hall rack, and this is brass. And this was probably, or most likely, between World War I and World War II. So I would say it's probably 1930s. And the guy cleaned it a little too much. But the thing about these is that in no time at all, or just with a little moisture, that green verdigris will come back. But I think I'm just going to leave it because it does have little signs of it, as you can see there. And people can bring that back to taste. So this wood is actually much later, so that's going to come off, and I think I'm going to put a piece of slate on it. And it's really heavy anyway, and that slate will be super heavy, and it'll just scream quality. So I'll get some black slate and complete that. So okay, so this item is an ornamental piece that was at the very tip of a steeple on a building that was built in the mid-1800s in a place called Sokolowko, Poland. And they're doing some remodeling and stuff, and this came off of that. So It's super old. That's why I purchased it. He didn't ask too much money. It was like about $12. And I know that these kind of architectural salvage things are very sellable. But the old, weather vanes and things like that in the U.S. that you can see at markets, they're not 170 years old. So I have no idea on the value of this. It's kind of thin metal. It's handmade, and but yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't know what that should be priced at. It's kind of a one-of-a-kind object. Very decorative, though. So, okay, so another thing I got is this old glass wine bottle. I think we call them demijohns, and Polish people call them gąsior, which is kind of like goose. Yeah, so this thing is it's deceptively large. I'm soaking it right now because I'm cleaning it. It was a terrarium and there's like a whole forest in there, but got most of that cleaned out. It's soaking. I'm going to give it one more good wash. And I'm 6 feet tall, and this bottle actually comes up almost to my hip, so it's well over my knee. And I don't know if you can kind of tell that. There's no kind of scale reference there, but this thing is gigantic. I saw some really big ones at Round Top when I went there, and they were priced between $90 and $110 everywhere, but they were smaller than this. So I don't know if larger ones mean more money. And the weird thing is I got this at that guy's house, and right before that, at the actual antique show, I saw these big iron baskets for these, and he wanted $50 each, and it would have worked for this. I have a picture of one that's a little bit smaller. I'll insert right here, and I didn't pick them up because I didn't have any of these demijohns. But that guy will be there next month. I'm pretty sure they didn't sell, so I'll at least pick up one that'll work for this. It'll have a kind of an iron basket that goes with it. So yeah, it's really cool. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to show you was this very heavy lamp. It's super heavy. It is nickel plated brass, so and it's solid, and also a very heavy item. It's been rewired for European electricity, but the thing is, you can just change the plug on it, and it's ready to go. If it was old wiring, I would totally redo it, but since it's been rewired, I'm gonna just leave as it is and change the plug. But it has an articulating arm at 3 different places, so it's totally adjustable, and it has a heavy base there. That base is actually filled with iron, which gives a lot of weight as well. So yeah, it's really cool. It's very quality lamp. So don't know what the value on that is. I paid about $100 for it. So it's kind of old, and it's really cool. Okay, so now that I'm back, I reached out to a shipping company. I mentioned earlier that I'm going to go with a half a container this first time. And I have to say that I am not a fan of those cargo logistics sea transport companies, because it seems like every single one you call, their main job is just to get you off of the phone. They ask you a whole bunch of questions that lead to seem like there's too many variables and they can't give you an answer. And the truth is, they could say, you're probably looking at about $4,000 door to door from Europe to near Chicago, which is what probably it's going to come out to. They could just say that and be helpful. But this time I wasn't actually looking for a price. I mentioned the fact that, well, they asked what I was going to put in the container. And when I said, just some old stuff, she said, antiques? No, it's going to be too difficult because you have to get all this documentation for every antique. And I know that's not true. I did the research myself. So everything that I have qualifies to be shipped. And if you guys are curious about some of those rules, you can let me know. It's for Poland specifically, as far as I'm informed, but I do know a little bit about general European Union rules, because Poland defers to European Union rules for exporting. But anyway, I was really frustrated, and so now my buddy Pete's going to help me try to figure out how to do a good spreadsheet and how we can put together some documentation on all this stuff. Most of this came from Antique Show, so there's really no paperwork from it. They probably also bought it used at a different market. So we'll see how it goes. I'm just kind of getting into that process. In probably about a month or so, I'll know a lot more. So I'm going to share that. I'm going to make a video for you guys. And if you have any questions, let me know, because I'm going to go to battle with these guys. And yeah, I'll share everything that comes out of that with you guys. So, all right, thanks for visiting, and I'll talk to you again very soon.